Hello everyone, today we are going to talk about the basic knowledge of Huawei VRP. So what do we mean by VRP? Actually, it's like the system you use on your computer. Our network devices also have a system, and their system is called VRP. After learning the knowledge from this lesson, we should at least understand the basic knowledge of VRP and how to operate VRP in the future, as it is a system. For Huawei, from low-end models to high-end core models, all series of switches, routers, and firewalls actually have the same basic engine and system, which is VRP. It provides a unified user interface and management interface, allowing us to manage it. Additionally, within this system, we have defined various standards to enable communication between the device's forwarding plane and the VRP control plane. Now, let's take a look here. The development of this system was not smooth from the start. It had to evolve step by step. Initially, we had VRP1, which was only used for low-end and mid-range devices. Later, with VRP2, there were improvements. It became distributed rather than centralized, but it was still not very advanced. It wasn't until VRP3 that it began to support various functions and core devices. Core routers. By the time we reached VRP5, many systems, such as our AR series and S series, are actually based on the VRP5 system. Its performance is higher, and it is basically suitable for various Huawei products. It also has an upgrade, which is our VRP8 with multi-process capabilities, and it is designed based on various components to support multiple CPUs and multiple chassis. During this process, there is a file system that allows users to view, create, rename, delete directories, as well as copy, move, and rename files. Delete files, so through which storage media can we perform a series of storage operations on it. There are quite a few options here, such as the USB that we are quite familiar with, right? You can insert a USB flash drive or a hard drive, including SD cards, NVRAM, flash, and SDRAM, all of which are possible. In this context, we are compatible with quite a few options. Besides these, if we want to perform some operations on it in the future, after the device starts, it will first enter the boot read-only memory. This system will display some hardware parameters, and then it will run the system software and read these configuration files from the default storage path. Initially, when we perform initialization, we talk about device management, which actually often involves two methods. One is command line management, and the other is web interface management of our VRP user interface. Our system will actually allocate a user interface to manage and monitor. Our user terminal, which is the session between our computer and the device, means that we can perform some operations on it. Among these, there is a console which allows us to manage or monitor it by logging into the device through a port. As for the VTY, this user interface is used to manage the users who log into the device. In the future, if everyone uses remote methods such as Telnet or SSH to establish a connection, a VTY channel will be created to achieve remote access to the device. In this context, when users log into the device, they are actually divided into different user levels. It's not feasible for everyone who logs into the device to be able to restart it or delete some configurations, as that would be disastrous. Therefore, it defines the command level here that each user tier can execute, allowing for restrictions on operations at different levels. For example, if the user level is 0, the commands they can control are also at level 0, which is basically access level. For instance, I might check a series of things. If it's level 1, then the commands they can manage range from 0 to 1, which is often at the monitoring level. For example, some system operation and maintenance commands, including display commands. If the user's current level is 2, then they can manage commands at levels 0, 1, and 2. These are configuration commands, including, for instance, routing commands and some IP configuration commands. Users can directly be provided with some network services. Next, there is a user level called 3 to 15. I'll mention this to everyone later. They can operate commands at levels 0, 1, 2, and 3, which is the management level. Basically, you can understand it as being able to use almost all the commands on this device, including some file systems. This command is also level 0, which is basically access level. For example, if I want to check a series of things, if it's level 1, then the commands that can be managed at this time range from 0 to 1, which is often the monitoring level. such as some system operation and maintenance commands, including display commands. If the user's current level is 2, then at this time they can manage commands of levels 0, 1, and 2. These are configuration commands, including, for example, some routing commands and IP configuration commands. They can directly provide some network services to the user. Next, there is a user level called 3 to 15. I'll mention this to everyone later. They can operate commands at levels 0, 1, 2, and 3, which is the management level. Basically, you can understand it as being able to use almost all the commands on this device, including some file systems. User management, various saving functions, or even restarting can all be used. So why do we mention this here? There is a level from 3 to 15, which is actually a manual way to elevate permissions. For example, if I have 4 administrators, and these 4 administrators have different roles, let's say one of them is the person in charge. A is the person in charge, while the remaining B, C, and D are subordinates. I only want A to have the save function. Now here I can elevate the save command level to level 4. And I will also elevate the level of this administrator, specifically administrator A, to level 4. The remaining administrators by default are at level 3. However, typically commands are capped at level 3. If we are not debugging, for instance, C5 is a level 3 command, meaning everyone can store it. But if I make these changes, only this special person, A, can manage it. This is about our user levels if in the future I log into this web system's web page. For example, using the external interface of a Huawei AR router as an example, we need to open a browser on the PC, that is, on our computer, and enter a management address, say 192.168.1.1. We simply press the Enter key, and it will display in our browser. At this point, we can use a username and password to log in and manage it. Besides these, we have another method. The other method is using the command line, which requires connecting through our console port. In addition to the console port, we also need a special cable, called a console cable. What does the console cable look like? One end of it is long, which is the network cable connector. And actually, in our current network, this cable has often been optimized. Now, one end of it is a USB interface, and the other end is our RG45 network cable port can be used here by connecting one end of the network cable to the console port and the USB interface to the USB port on our computer, because many computers nowadays no longer have this type of serial interface. We also need some software on the computer, whether you install PuTTY, CRT, or X-Shell. Any of these software can actually manage our devices. Taking PuTTY as an example, these login software can connect through Telnet, SSH, or serial interface to log into the device and establish a connection. Here, we need to adjust a series of parameters such as the interface, its transmission rate, and some flow control operations. After completing these adjustments during this process, we also need to enter its hostname to connect to it, which is its management address. In addition to these, we can also perform some remote operations on it, such as choosing Telnet and SSH. If we choose SSH here, we need to change the type to SSH and use the default port number 22. If we use Telnet, we need to use port number 23. Of course, on some devices, the SSH function is disabled. So if you want to remotely log into a device in the future and wish to use SSH, you need to pay attention to the SSH configuration, including whether the SSH function is enabled on the device. In the future, if all parameters and configurations are correct, we can log into our devices through the command line using this controller, allowing us to see the entire operation interface and access the device for a series of management tasks. If you want to learn about Huawei certification technology or obtain the Huawei certification question bank, please send a private message.